It's been a long time since we've gotten anything new from the Creep franchise. I've been wanting for the past 7 years to get any kind of new update on a movie, something like that. Made videos on the third movie, but it was announced that we were getting a Creep TV series. When I first heard that, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. I didn't really understand why we wouldn't just get a third movie, but then when I heard the concept of it, it totally won me over. The idea of almost getting like 6 mini Creep movies, because that's what the Creep tapes kind of is. And when you think about it, the end reveal of the first movie is almost the perfect setup for something like this. Each thing is basically like a mini Creep movie. You see him, a new method, a way of making a new victim fall into his trap. Usually he kind of toys with his food a little bit, plays a cat and mouse game, acts really weird to them, and then by the end of it kills them. That's what these movies are about, and I feel like these are great kind of bit-sized versions of that. And I'm really glad that we finally got something new from this franchise. The biggest thing that I was excited for was just to see Mark Duplass as the Creep back. He's one of my favorite horror performances of all time. Might even be top 3, honestly. I think he's really good. Maybe top 5. There's always going to be a place for Freddy, Chucky, and Jigsaw. Still though, love this character, love this performance, and I was just happy to see more of it. And you do see new sides to the Creep. See a bit of his craftiness in a way that, we saw it in previous movies, but I think we see things in a new light this time. New methods of deception. And although this far we don't really learn a lot new about him, because this is when the first 2 episodes are out, you do get to see new ways, inventive ways for him to trick, subdue, and eventually kill his new victim. And even though it's been years since we've gotten anything new from the Creep franchise, this show throws you back in seamlessly, back into the world of this character, his web of lies, and that's what I really dig about it. Like I said with Duplass, he just doesn't skip a beat. He goes right back into this character, and he does an excellent job of that. In the first episode especially, it feels like kind of a manner of playing the best hits from the movies, but it still carves its own way, and you see new weird gradations to the Creep. They show what I find best about these movies. Just classic showings of the Creep being weird, playing with his victims, and it also plays into something that I love when comparing the first 2 movies. Something that I like when comparing the first 2 movies is just how different the victims are. They really change the dynamic, because that's what it is. These movies, these tapes, they're all just the Creep and the subject. And the way that the subject acts, reacts, really informs the way you view this character, and it reveals a lot about the Creep. Like in the first movie, Aaron's very trusting. He seems like completely helpless. So in a way, that's just the Creep's most ideal subject. In the second movie, Sarah's a very different kind of subject and character. She actually kind of pushes back, and this is where you see some of the pettiness of the Creep and kind of those diva tendencies that you didn't really see in the first movie. Just Aaron and Sarah show very different framing for how you see the Creep. And the thing that's cool about this show is that it gives you many different options. Since every new episode is a different subject, it gives you many opportunities. It seems like each episode you get to see different shades of the way the Creep acts, the way he reacts, the way that these different people changes his method of toying with them. Because you could see, when someone's fed up, he feels like he has to give a little bit just to lure them just enough back in. And the way he plays them is so fascinating. What's also fun about it too is that each episode is a different premise or ruse that the Creep uses to lure in a new victim. Like in the first one, he pretends to be a struggling actor who needs to film some tapes for that. The second one, he pretends to be a skydiver who almost died to lure in this bird watcher. And it's almost like not a rushed, but kind of a very concise version of, a movie for both of these. They feel like they could individually be new Creep movies. They provide the setup. They provide, the unraveling of the Creep's true motivations, him weirding out the subject, things gradually just getting worse and worse, usually, pushing them to a breaking point, doing just enough to get them back in just close enough for him to make the kill. And although he has some repetitive quirks, things like that, his different ruses and the different people that he pretends to be keeps his character versatile. But I kind of like that they keep some of these things the same, some of these repetitive quirks, because it shows consistency and it makes you feel like it is the same character. It's all that stuff like the cat and mouse, the sleight of hand. It just really keeps me on my toes with this character, and it makes him, pretty unpredictable. But another thing that I just love because I find it so entertaining is that this guy is just such a freak. He's hilarious, he's funny, he says the weirdest things, he goes all in on it, and Duplass is comedic delivery, because he is a pretty comedic actor. He had, a pretty long running role on shows like The League, so he gets that comedy delivery down perfectly. I think he knows how to strike the right balance between creepy and funny. And it's also, he is pretty convincing in how he convinces the audience that these people would, they'd be weirded out, but they would stay in the fold. Forgive him as, someone who's just a bit off or weird. I think that what these movies really thrive on and what this show thrives on is exploring kind of social experiments, social dynamics, and what people are willing to tolerate, to be polite or because of money or whatever it is. Also, too, there is a little tinge of especially in the second episode, you kind of feel bad for the subject because he's a bit wholesome and he likes to watch birds. I don't know why, it's funny to me. But going back to the Creep, like I said, I really did get a laugh out of his character. I'd say that in the Creep tapes, he probably is at his funniest. Like I said, it's the mannerisms, his obsession with movies, his diva tendencies. All that stuff is just so funny to me. If I had to complain even for anything, I would still really like to get a third movie and have a solid Creep trilogy. These episodes are a bit short, but I also think that's good. They don't overstay their welcome, and some of the premises just don't necessarily lend each other to a feature-length movie all the way. I could see how, maybe they could become movies, but I could see also how they could stretch it too far. And I really do like that this premise lends itself to something like this. I find it really enjoyable. I'm glad that it exists. And I hope in addition to this, we still get a third Creep movie. And this does solidify why it is one of my favorite horror franchises, why it's one of my favorite running horror franchises. I was a bit worried that we would never get anything from this franchise again, that we would have those first two movies. That's it. Seemed like Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice were having a bit of difficulty with conceptualizing, making a good script for Creep 3. They ended up shooting this for what I assume was very little. Of course, Shudder bought it, and I couldn't be happier. I'm just happier to get more Creep. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'd love to hear. Are you a fan of this franchise? Let me know. Also, don't forget, if you want to join, I have memberships, GM Light's Army, GM Light Squad, whatever. Anything would be appreciated. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.